If you want to make a portfolio as a writer, you should make really small games or quests, because people don't have patience and time to read a lot. So you need to make it like short and interesting.
Do you think we're gonna see more and more games that are sort of a mix of, I guess, visual novels? They're almost closer to movies than games.
The writing reflects in the environment. So instead of writing dialogue, you cut on the dialogue and you write for the environment.
Welcome. Today I have a pleasure to be here with Yevgeny Blinov.
Hey.
Yevgeny started with modding Warcraft 3, eventually entering the industry as a technical artist, later transitioning into writing and narrative design. Yevgeny, thank you for joining me. Could you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, you kind of introduced me. Yeah, I'm a narrative designer and a writer for video games. It's always been my passion to do that. It's just that I happened to kind of walk through a journey with many where I had to kind of do a lot of things, starting from programming, technical art, visual effects, a little bit game design, map design. But eventually, I stopped at the writing because writing has always been like my kind of guiding stone. So it's just that you know how it works in the industry. Like you need, if you want to write for a video game, first you need to make a video game and write for it. Yeah. So this is how it goes.
Yeah, gotcha. So you entered the industry from a technical role because it was easier to get into the games, basically.
I wouldn't say it was easier. It was more like it was what was available at that moment. The industry was, especially in my country, it was very different. Like 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was much narrower, and there were pretty much almost all roles available were technical. Even like roles that are not like you know not necessarily like production and coding. Even like game design roles, they're not exactly game design. They're more like product stuff and still technical. So I just picked what was available to me and grew from there.
Gotcha. Would you say having this bit of a technical background helps you in writing?
A lot actually. When you have some technical background, the way you plan things is kind of different because it helps to be more practical. For example, I met a lot of writers who kind of write for the story, and like they go wild with their imagination, which is great. And I also sometimes do it, but it's also important to understand what you can actually make. Like you have a team and you have some budget, some limited budget, have some limitations, and a game was like that was a little bit limited in its scope, but a game that was finished and released is better than a wild game that was never made or never released. So when you have this technical understanding, you also kind of when you plan things, you already take it into account that, like, if you have some wild idea, you sit down for a moment and think, can my team actually make it? Like, because in the given time frame, because like especially like the programming team, they always have something on their plate. They're always like have very tight deadlines, so you don't want to kind of complicate things, right? So yeah, I would say it helps a lot.
Gotcha. So it kind of helps you understand what's even possible and how to structure that writing to support the game.
Yeah.
Yes, basically role. So let's say I am a writer. I have written a couple short stories, but I like games. So what are possibilities for me? What can I do?
So I would say there are established roles, writing roles, but there are some kind of aspects or vectors in writing for games. So first of all, there is world building. Okay, so you kind of create a world, create a lore, like you define what the world is, what the setting is, what's the tone, what's the guiding theme. Like is it space, is it like fantasy setting, like is it serious, is it humor, what nations, races, species exist in the world, like what creatures, this is world building. Okay, then there is storytelling or planning. So basically, it's where you write the story. Okay, you write a character, you write your story, the hero's journey, so to say. And sometimes it's a story campaign, sometimes like it's episode, it's depending like on what kind of game you're making. Not every game has like one story. Some games have, just a setting, and maybe several short stories unrelated to each other but still within the setting. So this is the storytelling part. Then there is more like on the ground writing. So basically it's either dialogue, or like if you play RPG games, you can find diaries, with some, some dead NPC, and near the NPC you can find some diary which explains, like, written by this NPC, what happened to them, stuff like that. It's basically the frontal writing. It's the text or like voice that the player gets to see. It's the last stage of writing, like facing the player, I would say. It also like writing voice lines is also part of that. Okay, or like barks. Barks are like short sentences, short lines spoken by NPCs or characters during combat or during like many different situations. So these are like the basic three for narrative. There is also translation and stuff like that, and copywriting, marketing. Those are not exactly narrative. Like, it's still writing, and there's still a lot of storytelling there. But it's like kind of, something that wraps the game around. Like it's not a part of the game's production. It exists to support and sell the game, onward.
Gotcha. So we often hear the, I suppose, role a narrative designer. So what exactly does that mean? Is it like sort of all of those roles that you just mentioned together?
Yeah, it usually it depends on the size of the team. In many, like in most of the industry, apart from AAA games, AAA companies, usually it's all of these. All the three I mentioned. Now, um, basically, narrative design, it doesn't necessarily mean writing. It means designing the flow. It's like, let's say you write a mission or a quest, so you decide where the character or where the player encounters enemies, speaks to NPC. What do they talk about? What's the objective? What do you need to do? You need to kill someone. You need to bring someone, save someone. What reward do you get? It's like you design the flow, okay, and you make sure that the flow of your quest delivers the story. And you have many narrative tools, delivery tools, like you have dialogue, you have diaries, you have environmental storytelling, you have many other different tools depending on the game. Sometimes it's even like unit description or ability names, it's like you need to deliver the story, to tell the story with many other means, and you need to know when is the best time to use every tool. You don't want to use just one tool for everything. You don't want to use too many tools. You kind of need to, to balance it, depending on what you want to tell. If you want to tell like a large story or a small story or a small piece of story, and how you want to give the story, not to keep to maintain the pacing of the game. Like, if it's an action game, it's one thing. If it's like a turn based or like a visual novel, it's a different thing. So you need to take the pacing into account. You need to keep the intrigue, so the player will still keep following the story. So that's narrative. It's not just writing. Like, okay, in large companies, if you're a narrative designer, you don't write. Okay, so you design the narrative, and then usually, like, as a narrative designer, you kind of tell other writers what you give them a scope to write. Like, for example, you tell them like, here I find a dead NPC, and near the dead NPC I find a diary that explains that I don't know, he was killed by plague, and he was like writing a goodbye letter to his children or something like that. So I write it down, and then I tell the writer to write it, to write what's actually written there. Okay, so you kind of direct the writers, but that's in larger companies. In smaller companies, smaller studios, usually you do both things.
Gotcha. When you say like there's obviously differences between AAA and indies or AA even, how what do you think is sort of a size of the company when it starts making sense to have a team of writer instead of just one writer?
Okay, so all the companies, all the studios I worked at had one, maybe two writers, writers and narrative designers. Um, there was only one time when we had a writing team, and there was a writing lead, and I was one of the writers who were under the lead. So the lead would basically give us, tasks to write, like any other team works. But that's because the studio was kind of big. It was an indie studio, but it was large. Okay, for some reason. So yeah. So usually, like in most companies, even like studios where I work right now, which is a mid-sized studio, there is just me. There, I'm the writer. Sometimes there is one writer and narrative designer and someone like a junior, maybe, to help with writing tasks, because usually, like, if you look at the scope of any game, even like a heavily story-driven game, usually most of the work is art and programming. So naturally, those teams would be larger than the writers. And if they have a budget to hire some other person, they would usually look first, on if art or programming teams need something, and only then, if like they don't need and they still have some budget, they would come and help, offer to help with more people for writers. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I would guess it depends a lot also on what type of the game it is, right? For like an action, probably not action RPG, but like action game, the writing is probably a lot less important than for like a CRPG or maybe even a horror game.
Yes and no. I mean, yeah, CRPG has a lot more written text and a lot more stories and quests and stuff like that, especially like if it's open world or something. Now, action games, if it's like still a story driven action game, but it's still an action game, let's say like God of War, okay, it still has a story. Now, in games like this, in fantasy games, the writing usually reflects in the environment. So instead of writing dialogue, instead of writing lots of dialogue, you cut on the dialogue and you write for the environment. So basically, most of the text I write is for like how the place look like, okay, or like how the enemies look like. So you're still writing. It's just not the text is less text becomes the end product, okay, and most of your text becomes guidance for environment and art and stuff like that.
Gotcha. That sounds to me like, yes, writer or as a narrative designer, you need to really work very tightly with the rest of the team. Because what you are describing now is almost more like a design, a game design, where you are describing how the enemies look and all that.
Yeah, it's first of all, yeah, it's called narrative design for a reason, right? You design just like, okay, game design is like a very wide umbrella that encompasses a lot of things. There is level design, mechanic design, environment design, and so every game designer is responsible for one specific aspect, and narrative designer is a game designer responsible for the narrative aspect, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Uh, okay, so let's say that I am interested in becoming a writer. I have done so I have done a little bit of writing, and I would like to write for games. How do I get a shot at working in on games?
You need to make a game. I mean, writing for games is as good as in the game where people can play it and experience your writing. and you don't have to make a AAA game. Of course, you don't need to make a large games. Many writers start with text adventure games. Like for example, you don't have like you're not an artist, you're not a programmer, but you can start with tools like Twine or RTC, Arcweave. It's like small engines for text-based games. Okay, so you can start from there because it's the easiest way, technically easiest way to make a game, and you can make small adventure games. Let's say um, usually it's like maybe like you can even make a quest for an existing game. Maybe you can also modding helps a lot. Like if there are some engines for existing games. Like I heard like Larian Studio have something like that for one of their games. So you can work in their engine and make a quest or an adventure situated in their world. It kind of it promotes you as a writer. Okay, it sells your skills as a writer if you upload it to your portfolio or stuff like that. And usually like if you want to make a portfolio as a writer, you should make really small games or quests that because people don't have patience and time to read a lot, so you need to make it like short and interesting, like um, throw them right into a situation and make it like interesting.
So, if you are trying to hire or you are responsible for hiring a junior writer, what are you looking for in their portfolio?
I would say short games or short stories. By games, I mean like don't have to be completed games. It can be like short quests, scenes made in Twine, in Arcweave, and like software that helps you create small text adventure games. Maybe mods, short levels for existing games on um, on engines like as far as I know, Larian has something like that you can create your own adventures. I would like to see something you made interactive. Any stories you written for games. So I want to see games that have your writing in it. Now, if you don't, it's not the only thing. Okay, so sometimes if you can instead of creating an interactive experience, you can, let's say you worked on some game, okay, and you have your quest in it, or something you wrote in it. So you can create a portfolio page with and basically explain your design steps. Okay, so let's say you wrote a quest, so probably there was a process involved. So first, you kind of came up with an idea. Maybe like you bounced off the idea with like people you worked with. Okay, so you can say, so this was my idea. I suggested like 3 4 things. This one got approved. This one didn't get approved. So once you had your solid idea, you wrote down the steps for the quest. Then you defined like where this quest happens, what's the setting, what's the story, what's the objective. Then like describe each step, what happens at each step, how it advances the story. Then what what's your exact encounters, like do you fight enemies, do you find something that gives you a clue, do you speak to someone. Basically if you don't have anything interactive, you can write down the steps of how you made a quest and then show basically the end result. Okay, so I would even say start with a sample of your end result, like a dialogue or something, and then like go back and show the process, like and describe your process, like how was it, like why you made the choices you made. Okay, so yeah, so these are like the two things I would look for. Show me your experience, interactive experience in the game, and show me your process.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So, uh, AI is now obviously a huge topic for all of development, but for writing, it's probably one of the more impactful the parts. So, how has AI in any way changed your workflow?
When you're writing something, okay, so you're kind of building up the experience, you're designing the experience, whether it's like a novel or a movie script or a game. You still like you plan the story in your head, you pour it down, and you use the available tools to deliver it. And this is something that involves a lot of thinking and planning, and this is something you still do as a human, with or without AI. Now, I know some people use like ChatGPT or stuff like that to write stuff, but like they usually use it for like text that the player gets to see. And first of all, usually like players do see that, they notice it, they notice that something kind of loses its voice, so I don't recommend doing it. Now, also I saw people doing it even for the design stage, like so they kind of write design documents for quests or levels. And it it shows like it's difficult for the people who work with you to understand what you meant there. Like let's say like there is, I mean, design docs are communication, and when you write down like what the flow of a quest, okay, so you communicate it to anyone down the pipeline who is involved in the production of this quest. And every step is a decision, okay, is a micro decision. I saw some people use ChatGPT um, for texts that players see, like dialogue or diaries or stuff like that. And oftentimes players see it, like they don't usually feel why, but they kind of feel that it's a little bit kind of loses its voice or something like that. When like something, they feel something is off, okay, so I don't recommend writing texts that players see with AI, whether it's dialogue, whether it's diaries or like translations or stuff like that. uh, yeah. Now, I also saw people using AI, specifically ChatGPT or Claude, for example, for writing design documents. Let's say you write a document for a mission or a quest, uh, and kind of write, the flow, what happens when it happens. You write like what we see, what we hear, what we can interact with. And usually like all these small things are small decisions, are micro decisions within a larger scope. Like there are big decisions, like, this quest happens like in on the moon, okay. And there are small decisions, like what you see, okay, so you go like you turn left, you see something happening, you turn right and you meet someone. So every decision is like everything is your decision, and you communicate it to your team. And your goal when writing these docs is to explain your intentions. So like for example, a level designer who needs to build this level, uh, they need to know what you mean. Okay, so you turn left, you face an NPC, you turn right, you find some lost diary, okay. And like the area, I don't know, maybe like there's a balcony collapsing, okay. So and you need to explain your intentions. Now when you let AI write it for you, you kind of distance yourself from the micro decisions, and you let it complete the gaps. And sometimes you don't understand. The person who's supposed to read it doesn't understand what you meant here. And then the person asks you what you meant here, and you don't know because it wasn't your decision, it was the AI's decision. And you probably even, like, even if you read through and double checked it, yeah, Probably, but many people don't do that. Like I've seen I've happened to read design docs, and while I was reading them, they were full of like metaphors, like metaphors, yeah. Uh, like the ChatGPT style writing, like it isn't this, it is that, and when it says like it isn't this, it usually means something tangible, and then it is that, and then it inserts some metaphor that doesn't really help anyone. Okay, so and it uses them more and more and more and more, and it writes like walls of text, even if it's like properly organized and with icons and grammar. But like you read it, and once you finished reading it, you be like, what did I just read? Why? Like, and sometimes like the person who wrote this doc, you probably spoke to them before, and then whatever you find in this document kind of contradicts what they said before. And because like people don't even like, they sometimes they rely on AI so much, then that they don't bother to check it. Like they write prompts, and they give them like instructions, what to write first, the next, and it ends up like it writes so much text that the person who's supposed to check it before sending, they just don't want to do that. They just don't have time to do that. They're so disengaged that they're just sending it right away. And this is like the problem with AI, that this tool helps people disengage from making choices. They don't want to make choices, because making choices is a mental effort. Yeah, like if you need to design a level to write a story, you need to think about everything you add in there. And the selling point of AI is like save time. And when you save time, you disengage yourself from stuff. And the more you disengage yourself, the more you want to disengage yourself. It's like it accumulates basically. So you're like, it makes you more and more tired. I would say it's even addictive. So when AI first came out, I was kind of excited about it. Like I tried it, and yeah, it could write some stuff, but very very soon I found out that it was leading me to not a very good road, because it doesn't it like, the more I used AI, the less I wanted to think and make choices and decisions. So I made myself to stop, because like, first of all, I like making decisions. I like writing, and I don't want the algorithm to make decisions for me. And also like, I want to be able to take responsibility for my choices and explain them, and like explain my intentions to other people I work with. And when you write something with AI, as I mentioned before, usually like you don't, even if you like, you remember that you checked the AI, and and confirm that, yeah, it makes sense. You don't remember those choices because you didn't make them. You approved them, but you didn't make them. And it's kind of different. So I mean, I believe AI can be used for like very technical, repetitive stuff. Probably, I don't know, maybe I don't know, programmers use them a lot. But for writing, there isn't much repetitive work. Like usually, it's just choices, decisions, and that's why I think like I'm not a fan of AI, especially in writing.
It makes a lot of sense. It's true that in writing, basically every word you put on paper is a micro decision existing within its own context. So if you don't make those decisions, you don't remember the reasoning why you made those decisions.
Exactly.
Well, one thing I have heard a lot of sort of these designers, creative people use LLMs and these models is as sort of a sparring partner. Not as a not to kind of generate the idea, but let's say you let yourself bounce your ideas through them. You kind of have it as a person that you brainstorm with, or that kind of oppose you in some way. Have you tried anything like that?
I actually tried, and I noticed something interesting. I when I was writing down my ideas to the ChatGPT, I was getting like, how to explain it? I, I, I was getting my racing thoughts, ideas, even before the chat replied to me. Like the very act of writing down my ideas kind of gave me some thoughts. Like let's say I write something like, what do you think about this and that, and even before like hitting the send button, I was like, wait, no, this doesn't make sense. This should be like this. Like this doesn't make sense with the thing established earlier. So I think it's just the act of writing something down, and not is already like working as a bounce for yourself. So you can make this brainstorming with ChatGPT, and I did that too, and it didn't work for me because like how do LLMs work? They usually give you something the most plausible thing, the most popular thing, and usually like the most plausible, the most popular is usually the first things that I think about. So the things that it gave me, it, it's basically the stuff I already thought about. As I said, the most helpful part with it was the act of me writing down my ideas and not the input from ChatGPT.
That makes a lot of sense, and I would not be surprised if that's how a lot of people actually use it. They just don't realize that that's what they are doing, that they actually completely disregard the output, but the fact that they write it down is what helps them think through it.
Yeah, but then you can just write it in a Google Docs. Like you don't have to use ChatGPT for that.
No, I see what you mean, but in my experience, sometimes when something throws at you even the most like median average output, it kind of gets your brain racing in a certain direction. So the fact that something shoots back at you, it's kind of like, scrolling Pinterest. Sometimes people do it to get inspired by something, even though a lot of the images there are kind of generic. But seeing the generic image kind of sends you in a certain direction. So I would think that that's how often it can help people to think of original ideas through seeing median ideas.
Yeah, I've heard people using it. It's just that when I try to use it like this, usually like I feel like it wastes my time because I feel like I'm faster without it. Like if I want to write something down, I just write it down, and I write down in very very simple language, like talking to people on the street. Like I'm not very very few words just to write down my ideas, and I don't need any chatbot to get back to me because like writing prompts and getting the response takes time, and I feel like it slows me down. Like I think 2 or 3 years ago I was using it a little bit. Now I'm kind of the last time I used it was probably like a few months ago. So yeah,
Yeah, it seems like you have a good workflow even without it, though.
I mean most of the my input goes from people I work with or like my superiors. So it's way more important than what the chatbot is. Usually what I write is I write down ideas usually. Like I mean not just ideas like this and that. I mean I need to create something coherent with ideas that support like small ideas, small decisions that support the bigger direction, and my input goes from people, not from chatbots.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I suppose it can be more useful to people that work solo or they don't necessarily have other people to bounce the ideas off. Because, of course, having another person that's engaged is always much better.
Exactly.
As far as I know, you have worked not on just on games, but on movies as well. So, could you tell me what did you find different about writing and in general working on movies versus games?
Movies. I filmed. I wrote, shot, and directed two short films, and I worked a little bit as a screenwriter for other movie production that unfortunately was cancelled. Um, of course, it was like years ago. It was like 7 years ago. So it was way before the AI. Now, the differences is that first of all, movies are more of a waterfall pipeline. So let's say You write your script, then you finish it, then it goes to pre-production phase, production phase, like shooting, and then post production. And of course, like the story tends to change here and there. Like sometimes the actors, like you wrote a dialogue between two characters, and then the actors, they even like during repetitions, they say something different, and it works better. So you kind of adjust the story. Then in post production, sometimes like you don't have, like, budgets are limited, and sometimes you don't shoot all the scenes you wanted, so sometimes you have to cut things out. And sometimes in post-production, in the editing phase, you some scenes don't work, so you cut them as well. Maybe like you go shoot something again, so you write another scene and you shoot it again, so kind of you repeat all the pipeline. But basically, still it's very like straightforward. So first there is writing, then there's shooting, and then there is editing. In games, it's more of a mishmash. So yes, you're right. First of all, you make a very simple um, demo of the game prototype. Then you go to write and develop the world. Then you write, you develop, and you create more levels. Then you go back to writing, and sometimes what you've written doesn't work, so you go back to that. And even like even close to the release phase, you still get to write, just like not like develop lore and world, but more like writing dialogue and more like the frontal text. But there's still like there is no the pipeline is more messy in game development, and in some ways it's more interesting, because you still have some control over it. Because in movies, you wrote a script, and that's it. You're done. Like in larger production, the screenwriter, when they submit the script and it gets approved, that their job ends here. And whatever comes out like in cinemas can be very different from what they've written, and they have no control over it. In game development, you have control along all the production. Like your control is limited because obviously there is gameplay, there is design needs, production needs, and stuff like that. But you all can always give your input on macro decisions and micro decisions. Yeah, so that's the biggest difference.
Mm-hmm. Sounds the primary it's really that there's more of a waterfall from start to end process for movies, and games, because of their nature, are very iterative. As they are kind of finding their identity, you keep on changing things through the whole process. So what do you think are sort of a inherent advantages that games have as a medium?
First of all, they're not rigid as movies. Like so, movies like they say a movie needs to last 2 hours, and it needs to kind of follow very rigid story structure, like the traditional hero's journey. Then the audience is passive; they just watch, and what you can deliver is only through only two mediums: what you hear and what you see. Yeah, and in games, like, you have a lot more tools, you have a lot more freedom regarding the format, the pacing, the length. As I mentioned before, you can tell the story through environments, through interactions, mechanics, even like ability icons. Yeah, they can still tell a story. So there is a lot more creative tools to be creative, basically. Uh, yeah, so that's, I think, the difference.
So I suppose the games can communicate the story through many different ways. Like famously, Dark Souls, right, communicates the whole story just through descriptions of items.
Yeah, that's a good example.
So, what are the games that you think were most interesting in what they did with the story?
Oh, that's a lot. Um, well, you brought up Dark Souls. I think it did a very interesting job because it was so non-descriptive in regards to its lore. Like, it just gives you a basic intro, and it gives you very small pieces, and sometimes you can complete the entire game, and you can still like not figure out entirely what's happening and why you did what you did, but the you still the players are still engaged in the story. So it doesn't give you a lot, but it keeps you interested in it. That's what I like about it. Um, Also, I would say, well, Warcraft 3. I mean, the RTS strategy. It was so great at storytelling in very simple ways. Like, okay, I played it when I was a kid, and I sometimes tend to think that things I liked as a kid maybe are not that great, just nostalgia and stuff like that. So I replayed the Warcraft 3 campaign, and holy shit, that's great. Like even now I think it's great because it's so simple. Like, it uses very basic tools, unit names, some basic dialogue, designs, visual designs, and all together it creates a very good narrative experience. It's not just Warcraft, it's any Blizzard game. They did a masterpiece with like how they employ all different aspects of the game, uh, and make it very coherent and tell, not just tell a story. Like it's more like to immerse you in the story. uh, so yeah, there are a lot more examples. Like Journey, if you know the indie game, or Inside. So they kind of they tell you the story without any words, and they kind of leave room for speculations, which is has proven to be the greatest tool when you are vague about the story, and but keep the players interested in it. It kind of, it leads to lots of discussions online, on Facebook groups, on community Discord, and this is what keeps the community alive, and essentially, uh, what helps what helps the developers keep going and make more games, sequels and stuff like that. So what else? Yeah, basically, like there are lots of games that aren't afraid to try different tools and innovate with how they deliver the story without just being frontal. Half-Life 2. Okay, Half-Life 2, they use very simple dialogue. Okay, but notice how many games, when there is this important story dialogue happening, the game stops. Okay, and like you lose control of the camera, you can't control the game, and there is dialogue happening between two or more characters to make sure that the player doesn't miss critical details for the story. Now, Half-Life 2, they don't do that. You can still control the game during like very important key dialogue in the story. I'm not talking about like uh, you know dialogue that's happening along with action. No, no. You're in the room. You met some very important character, and you can still walk around the room and while the dialogue is happening. And now, the greatest part there is that even though you can control the game, the still I still didn't want to take the camera off the character who's talking, because the dialogue was so emotional that I didn't I didn't want to go too much around. I was captivated, you know. So, and this is like the real magic here, because usually like dialogue kind of oftentimes, like even I say it as a writer, sometimes that dialogue, especially long dialogue, is kind of draining. Like uh, it sometimes feels a bit too long, even if it's important or interesting. It feels too long, and I want to like look around, stuff like that. But that dialogue didn't urge me to look around, because it was very interesting. I wanted to kind of you know look at the character, because the was speaking. Characters were speaking so emotionally that I wanted to see their emotions, even if like the animations were not that very emotional, like they were very basic. But how the dialogue itself went and how it sounded, it was captivating enough. So yeah, these are just few examples how games do something interesting with the story that many others games that just don't do. Well, Hades, okay, Hades, like it's a roguelike game where you start over and over and over again. And I'm not really a roguelike person. Like I don't like to start everything from scratch. But Hades is different because even though you start from scratch, the story continues, and which is why the things they actually turned the things that they made me like things that I don't like in games.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It seems like there is more and more sort of games that focus on story as a main sort of a value. Just recently, we have had like Telltale games. We've had Dispatch. We've had Slay the Bright Princess. A lot of games like this. So, uh, do you think we're gonna see more and more games that are sort of a mix of, I guess, visual novels? They're almost closer to movies than games because we are kind of following a linear story than we are seeing now.
I think yes, it's going there. I mean, there is a huge demographic shift in players and gamers. Usually, like if you look at like maybe 20 years ago or even like 15 years ago, games were more of a niche, and usually like these were mostly action games and stuff like that. And now there are a lot more audiences for many different games, and the walking simulators, as people call them, they really became more popular because there are a lot of people who just don't want action or like difficult to make difficult choices and puzzles and stuff like that. They want just interactive story. And so yeah, we're going to see more of them, I think, because this audience is still growing as far as I know. And even like games that people thought were dead, like point and click games. I mean, there was a in 90s they were very popular point and click games, maybe early 2000s. Then they kind of faded in popularity, and sometime after, probably during the COVID era, they kind of resurged because many people who usually don't play games, but they were stuck at home, they wanted something to do, and they're not like gamers. Yeah, they don't like shooting things. They're probably bad at those games. But point and click games or like visual novel games, they don't require mechanical skill. So these games are, so people who don't have those skills, they they found their passion in games that have different challenges. Let's say, so the challenge is like very emotional story, or like even like story with choices, or just to explore things around, even like without any challenges. Like, let's say Life is Strange, it doesn't really have challenges, so to speak. It has choices, yeah, but the game is not very difficult, but it's very interesting because how you can explore your surroundings, how you can interact with items. So yeah, it's a very different experience, and I think it's going to grow.
Do you think sort of a secondary consumption plays a role there? Because it seems to be more and more common that one person plays a game and then another person, like a partner, watches on the sofa or something like that. That seems to me to become a lot more common. So perhaps that's also how games adapt a bit.
You mean like streamers, yeah, on Twitch?
Well, streamers are part of it, but it seems to me like it's becoming a lot more common that, like, I don't know, boyfriend plays a game on TV and the girlfriend sits next to him, or vice versa. So I would assume that these sort of a more story-driven games are a lot more interesting to watch than like an action game. That main value there is really like playing.
I don't know really. I mean, usually, Personally, I'm a person who loves to play games, not watch people play games. And I also know, like when I was dating, so we were playing co-op games together, and I know many other people who also play co-op games with their girlfriend, boyfriend, um, but they're still both playing. Now, I know also like streaming and watching streamers is also popular. uh, I mean, I don't know if it's growing or not. I mean, I guess it's kind of entertaining, to watch streamers playing games because they also give some commentary and they're like, "Oh shit, I'm dead again." I mean, they're not for the games, but for the streamer's performance, I guess. So let's say there was one time I was working on my indie game, and I reached out to a streamer. I was working on a space pirate game, okay, and I reached to a streamer, and when she streamed the game, she kind of made it a show. Like she dressed like a pirate. She put a parrot on her shoulder, and she was talking like a pirate while playing the game. So it's more than just streaming. It's kind of performance of the streamer. So sometimes it's like we can see the streamer, and they kind of immerse themselves in it. Sometimes it's just about commentary, or sometimes like I saw streamers that just try to break the game in every way possible, or just games that I know many people try to learn from like Dark Souls, for example. So it's a very difficult game, and people watch streamers to learn from them. It's also a thing. So it's kind of an industry around an industry, so to say, that exists to support the game. Like there's the game industry and there's a streaming industry that kind of supports the gaming industry, so to say. uh, I think I probably the more people play games, the more people will be watching playing games. Like these are two connected.
Yeah, makes sense. You wanted to speak a little bit about sort of benefits and disadvantages of remote work. So, what do you wanna? What do you have on that?
I am a huge supporter of remote work, because, well, first of all, as someone who has been commuting a lot to the office, I know how much time and effort is wasted just on the road, And I'm even lucky because I can go by train, and in the train I can open my laptop and work or do something else. A lot of people, they commute in crowded buses or in traffic jams, and it takes so much effort from people that they kind of. I remember, like, I tried but basically I drove to work by car. There was one time I usually don't do that, so I drove to work by car, and I was it was so annoying just to find a parking lot. And once I found it, after like an hour of searching, I was so tired. I felt like I was about to go home because I feel like my workday ended and it just started. So there is that. Now, of course, I do like working from the office. I do like working with people, be around people, and have lunch together and have casual conversations. So it's not like I'm for 100 remote work. I'm for flexibility, so to speak. So if a person wants to want remotely, they should work remotely. If they want to come to the office, should come to the office. The most important thing here is to have such a pipeline, such a work environment that can support this flexibility. Now, what I mean by that, I worked in a studio where I could work remotely, but people were unavailable. Like, if you don't if you don't talk to them in person and just write them, text them, they don't reply, or maybe reply by the end of the day. So just remote work isn't enough. It needs to be like people need to be communicating and need to be online, and to be available. for example, I worked at another studio, which like could uh, I could work half day from home, half day from office. I could change wherever I want to work from office and home. I just need to like you know, to notify everyone that if I'm at home or at work, just to let them know where I am and how they can reach out to me. And even if like if I didn't do that, and if other people didn't do that, sometimes I would like text someone, and they would reply to me, and we have a conversation about stuff, and then I find out they're actually in the office, and so am I. Yeah, but the thing is that if you are if you're accustomed to digital communication, if you're available, then it doesn't matter where you work from. You can work from anywhere, as long as things are going well with the communication. So uh, I'm not a fan of like, of course, like 5 days in the office, like in the good old days, because yeah, that's rough. I'm also not a fan of remote only, although I worked at a remote only company, and it actually was a great experience. But we kind of missed this physical connection. But that was because like the company was in Poland, and like everyone was like from different corners of Europe, so we physically couldn't do that. Yeah, but I do think like a healthy balance is like 2 or 3 days from office, and but when it's flexible, and when people are available and communicating.
Mhm. It does seem like creative jobs specifically, like game development and similar, do benefit from in-person sort of work a lot more than I guess non-creative jobs, because there is some dynamic that happens physically in person that is very difficult to replicate remote. So I have seen well-working dynamics where it's like 4 days a week is remote, and then one day everyone goes on Friday, everyone goes to office, or on Monday everyone goes to office, and all the meetings are planned around that. So that seems to be working also pretty well.
Yeah, actually, yeah, in creative jobs, casual conversations often help a lot. um, so yeah, I agree with that. It's just sometimes like too much in-person work, for the reasons I mentioned about commute. Like when people are so tired, when like the studio schedules meeting like very early, and you like it takes like 2 3 hours just to get to the office, so you become stressed. And even if you like come on time, you're so stressed that you can't even share your input because you're so mad about the traffic. I mean, there needs to be a balance, like in everything in life. Balance is key. Yeah.
Okay, I think that about covers everything. So where can we learn more about you?
I work on an indie game. It's called Solar Sails.
Mhm.
Solar Sails Space Pirates. It's about space pirates, about steampunk ships in
Mhm.
like a 7th century pirate ships, but with steampunk
Oh, okay.
technologies flying in
Okay.
space. Yeah, a little bit promotion here. Yeah.
No, that's perfectly fine. We will leave link in description for everything.
Yeah, yeah. So you can wishlist it. I'm kind of developing it. It's in progress for quite a long time by now, but I'm not in a hurry. There's also like you play with the ship, with the steampunk ship. You can upgrade your ship. You can like recruit new characters, and they give their new abilities to the ship. And you have a scout duck, a scout space duck. You can send to sabotage enemy defenses, like lay dynamites, and then like let's say there are heavy defenses you can cross with your ship. So you send the duck to sneak in and like deploy some dynamites and stuff, and then blow it up, or like shut down the defenses, and then you open the way for the ship. So there is it's basically in an action game, like like top down, like Diablo, like by space, and you control the ship, but it's also a little bit tactical. Yeah, and also as my main job right now, I work on an RTS. called Defcon Zero, which is inspired by Command and Conquer and StarCraft and Company of Heroes. So where I also work as a narrative designer, I develop the world, the factions, characters. I write voice line. Actually, the best part is writing voice lines. Yeah, somehow. Uh, yeah, there is a lot of interesting stuff I'm working on actually.
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing all that. It's a good time for a pirate game now, because now the Black Flag is going to have a remaster, and there is another one another pirate game that's coming out. So it's a good time for it.
That's interesting. I enjoyed Black Flag back in the day.
All right, then thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
And everyone, thank you for watching.
Bye bye.
It honestly started when I was 15. I was playing a game called Conker's Bad Fur Day, and I absolutely loved how crazy creative it was, and I wanted to do something like that.
A lot of people would like to freelance, but they don't really know how to start. There are like platforms like Upwork, Freelancer, or whatnot, but usually those tend to have their own problems. So do you have any tips for people that would like to get into freelancing?